Thank you for joining me today on the Who God Says podcast. I am your host and Kingdom Ambassador, Tyshaundra. Hi. Today we have a special guest. He is an author, a minister, and a speaker, and also the host of the Dorsey Ross podcast, Mr. Dorsey Ross himself. Welcome.
Thank you.
Hi.
Appreciate it.
Hi. So happy for you to be here.
Well, I appreciate you having me.
Awesome. How was your weekend?
It was good. It wasn't too bad.
Okay. I know everybody's gearing up for Easter.
Right.
Whew. Yeah. And I have those kids. My kids is just everywhere. Festivals and everything. Whew. Gotta get it all out. Time to get focused now. So I wanted to bring you on to tell the people about your story. Can you explain to us what is Abert syndrome and
Yeah.
what's your story and how many surgeries you have?
Right. Yeah. Abert syndrome is a congenitive birth defect of the hands and the face. And when I was born, my forehead was pushed outward, my eyes and nose were pushed back into my head, and my fingers and toes were fused together.
Mm.
Me, I had no individual movement of them. And when I was born, my parents didn't even know that I was going to have any type of birth defect, any type of disability,
Yeah.
because they, back then I was born on January 16th, 1977. So back then they didn't have the testing and the technology like they do today
Yeah.
to determine the health of the baby and the normalcy of the baby and run the test like they can do today. So my mom, when she actually started to gain weight, she didn't even know that she was pregnant because of her
Wow.
age. She was 41 and my dad was 45 when they had me, so they were up in age there.
Yeah.
And my mom started to gain weight, and she was concerned and was worried about what was happening. And so she went to the doctor, and she's like, "Hey, what's going on?" She's like, "Well, you don't have a tumor, nothing's wrong with you physically, but you do have a baby, growing inside of you."
Oh.
So when I was born, my forehead was pushed outward, my eyes and nose were pushed back into
Mm.
my head, and my fingers and toes were fused together,
Wow.
meaning I had no individual movement of them. And usually, when you're born, you're born with a sore spot to allow the brain to grow and allow the brain to function normally, which I didn't even have that
Mm.
um I didn't even have that had already closed up.
Wow.
And because of that, the doctors had advised my parents that I would eventually become brain dead, and that the best option for my parents would be to put me into a institution and to let me be. And
Mm.
thankfully, because of my parents' faith and my parents' trust in God, they said, "No, we will not do that. We will not,
Wow.
put a son up that God has given us for adoption or put him up into a institution. We will take him home and we will see what God will do with him."
Yes.
And there was enough at the hospital there. I was born. I live in PA right now. Live in Pennsylvania, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm originally from New York. Born and bred in Queens, New York, and Long Island, New York. And the hospital where I was born in Jamaica, New York, had one of the nurses there
Mm-hmm.
had overheard my story and knew something about my story and said, "Well, why don't you take him to Columbia Presbyterian Hospital where they are doing operations on babies, like your son,
Wow.
and, you know, take him there and see what the doctors there can tell you. And, God opened up the door for that to happen. And the doctors there, looked at me and, looked me over and said, hey, we can operate on your son to relieve the pressure on his brain.
Wow.
And, he'll have to overcome a lot of operations and a lot of difficulty throughout his life, but he'll survive. We don't
Yeah.
know for how long. Some doctors told my parents, hey, he'll only live till the age of 18. You
Mm.
know, the other doctor said, hey, he'll be brain dead. Put him into an institution. He's not gonna survive. But here I am,
Come on,
47
God.
years later, and I had my first mini operations at 6 weeks of age to open the skull to allow my brain to grow and allow it to function, as normally as a brain can
Right.
function. And so throughout my lifetime, I've had 68 operations to reconstruct my face and to make it more, look more structured and more what a normal face, would
Yeah.
look like. And I got 9 fingers. They weren't able to, I guess because the bone structure, they weren't able to, to be able to, separate
Yeah.
that last finger. But I have most of my, my functionality of my fingers. I'm able to drive, and that's probably one of the more prominent questions I get is when I go to speak or when I go to the different places. They're like, "How did you get here?" I'm like, "I drove." They're like, "You drive?" It's like, "Yes, I drive."
Oh my God. God is
So
amazing.
yes, he is.
Yes.
So growing up, I gave my life to Christ at the age of 13. My parents allowed me, and not allowed me, but they put me to church whenever they could, and I gave my life to Christ at the age of 13, and began going to the youth group and being a part of that. I went to a I went to a special school for people with disabilities
Okay.
called the Henry Scottish School in Long Island. And, throughout my life, like anybody else, I was teased and
Yeah.
made fun of and called names like monster and freak. And, it's tough when, people call you names and bully you and pick on you. But I had to, remind myself, and God had to remind me that He had a reason and a purpose for me
Yes.
to be here and to do what I am doing.
Yes. That is amazing. That is amazing. Oh my God. Whew. Yeah, God has a purpose and a reason for you being here. Because your mom, your parents, to have that faith to say, you know what? You're not going to tell me to put my child in an institution. You're not going to tell me he's going to be brain dead before he's two. Like, just no, you know, to have that gumption, to have that faith, whether they believed it or not, it was faith to say,
Right? Oh yeah.
hey, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. Oh my God. Oh my God. It's crazy. When I was pregnant with my son, I was diagnosed with cervical cancer. And my doctor told me that the next appointment that we had to abort my son and do an operation because the cancer was spreading. It was called carcinoma. And he said it was spreading, it was progressing too fast. So he wanted to abort the baby and do an operation. And then we would follow up with chemo if it's needed. So I just said, okay, I went home and I never went back to the doctor. And my son is 10 years old.
Hi everyone! Join the Kingdom Fanatics community. Get exclusive content, green room access with our guests, and more. Visit our website at whogodsays.com. Like and follow us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We greatly appreciate your love and support. To find all information on joining our community, being a guest on the show, donating on our PayPal donation page, and more, visit us at whogodsays.com. Now back to the show.
So I applaud your parents for having that faith and having that gumption to just go against something that people put in your face that are like so final. They tell you this is final. This is, you know, this is what's going to happen and you got to accept that. I don't accept that because God's word is the only final thing in my life. I cannot accept it. And I am so grateful for your parents who did not accept that. That is amazing. It's amazing. Oh my God. Oh, now you mentioned you growing up, you was in school. Yes, you got teased and everything. Um, so what are like some of the things that were kind of hard for you as you were growing up as a kid? Like what are some of the physical things that were hard for you to do?
I think I was very limited in realizing that I had things that were hard for me to
Mm-hmm.
do. I mean, yes, there's things that are hard for me to do. I'm not, I'm not oblivious to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what I mean by that is because my parents never treated me as someone with a disability. They
Mm-hmm.
always allowed me to figure out for myself what I could and could not do,
Yeah.
and really couldn't wasn't very much. If you get to know me, long enough, or you're friends with me long enough, you'll realize that the word "can't" is not in my vocabulary.
Yeah.
If you say to me, Dorsey, let's go and do rock climbing, I'll be like, okay, I may not be able to do it, with you as much as you can, but I'll go and I'll try.
Yeah.
Some people are probably even impressed. I mean, I don't know how. I haven't done it in years. Probably a few years now, but people used to be impressed with my bowling skills of
Yeah.
how well I could curve a bowling ball because I never put my fingers. Normally, when you're bowling, normally you put your hand in the
Yeah.
hole of the
Yeah.
bowling ball. I never did that. I tried it like one time, and I realized because I can't put my arm because of the structure of my arm and everything, my elbow doesn't turn the way it's supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
I can't. I wasn't able to put my hand back all the way, so I didn't have the strength to bowl that way. But
Yeah.
if I put it in the palm of my hand and I did it, maybe a quarter of the way back, I could do it that way. I had the power in my hand to push
Uh-huh.
it that way. So, yes, I can't lift my hands above my head.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably one of the most the most limiting things that I can't do or I'm not able to do. Like I
Yeah.
said, I can't. I don't use the word "can." I just did, but you know, I'm not able to lift my hands above my head. So if there's something on a high shelf, I'm
Yeah.
not going to be able to reach
Yeah.
that object or that dish or whatever it is on that high shelf. So, those are but like I said, my parents always treated me like someone without a disability. And yes, I realized, growing up that I was different, maybe about my tween years, as people call it today, or my
Mhm.
young, my young 10, 11 years old, I started to realize I was different. And I think I remember my mom telling me a story when I came home one day from from the school, with disabilities, and I came home one day and I was like, "Mom, why am I going to a school for people with disabilities?"
That was a conversation to be had, huh? How did that go? How did that go?
Say that again.
How did that go? How did that conversation go?
Oh, I don't really remember. That was so long. That was so long ago. That's probably 40 years ago now, at least.
Yeah. Okay. So by the time you were in the school, do you know about how many surgeries you have had before that?
What when I went, meaning when I went to the school,
Yes.
to the to my um, I would probably say probably between 5 and 10, maybe.
Okay.
Probably closer to the five range, I would say.
Okay. And so when you had the later surgeries, did you used to like did your mom do homeschooling or how would that work?
My my mom didn't do the homeschooling, but I did have someone someone from the school
Oh,
come to the house. And when I was out for multiple weeks or multiple months at a time,
yeah.
someone from the school would come and they would tutor me, from my house.
That's awesome. Cool. Cool, cool. That is awesome. Great resource to have. Great resource. What do you think are some of the emotional challenges that you face in your life, in your daily life?
I, probably wondering, maybe wondering why God hadn't answered some of the prayers that I would like Him to answer.
Yeah.
Um, wondering why God took my mom so young. My mom passed away at the age of 68,
Mm-hmm.
and I was 28 at the time. I was at Bible college at the time,
Mm-hmm.
so it was kind of a shock to me. When she passed away, I knew that she was having health issues at the time because um, several months before she did pass away, she had a stroke.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew that she was having health problems, but I didn't know to the how severe
Yeah.
of an extent that it was. I guess at that time.
Yeah. Mm. That's happy. Yeah. My dad just passed in 2022, and he also had a stroke as well. Um, yeah. I mean, we do question. We I think our brains kind of try to find reason in things. Like there has to be a reason for everything. Um, but I know that we can't apply our logic to the things that God is doing. So with that, it kind of helps me more to not stress or worry about things that we can't control that. We can't.
Right,
That's beyond our control. But just having that feeling and that weight of why, you know, why is my father not here? Why can't he be a part of these things that I'm doing? Things like that. But I totally understand how you feel about your mom. I miss my dad every day. My Incredible Hulk. I used to call him my Incredible Hulk. I miss him every day. But yeah, I totally understand it. Those things. If you don't learn how to manage those thoughts, it can put you in a place that you don't need to be.
sure.
So, yeah. So what do you focus on once you get those thoughts? How do you flip that? What do you focus on? What's your motivation or your inspiration?
Probably knowing that, probably knowing that God has, answered the prayers that He needs to answer in the here and now, and that if He answers, the prayers that He hasn't answered, that's okay, and if He does, that's okay as well. And obviously knowing that I'll see, my mom at some point again,
Yeah, that's amazing. I like that. Did you ever think about, you know, taking your own life or any of those kind of deep depressive thoughts?
I did at times. I never, thankfully, I never attempted it, or I never, tried it. But I did think about it at times.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it was just, a God thing where He was like, "Hey, don't give up. I have,
Yeah.
greater plans in store for your life. It may not be easy. It may not be, a magical road that we walk down, but it will, I do have, greater plans in store for your life."
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. So how has your faith helped you throughout your life? How do you feel like that has carried you?
I think without my faith, I don't know if I would, as I just mentioned, I don't know if I would be here. I don't know where I would be in my life. You know, what would I be doing? Would I be serving God without my faith in Him? You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if I would even, think of that nature. I know He has carried me, and I know He has been with me through this whole time in
Yeah.
my life. And yes, there are times, as we all do, we question, where is God?
Yeah.
Where is He during this time in our lives? But I think as we look back at times in our life when we question that, or when we thought about that, we can see that He's always been there, with regardless of what we go through.
Yes. He's always been there. I like that. Yes. Yeah. You said you were in Bible college when you were 28?
I was in Bible college. Yes, I went to community college first,
Mm-hmm.
and then I went to Bible college. I actually thought, in my mid teens, late teens, I actually thought I wanted to become a youth pastor, and because I liked, working with the youth, and I liked, spending time with
Yeah.
the youth and encouraging them. And as I got older, I didn't do well, regardless of what school level I was at. I didn't really do well. I didn't do well
Mm-hmm.
memorizing. I didn't do well, on certain tests and certain subjects. Math is not my favorite. It's not my favorite subject.
Yeah.
Um, so as I got older, I started, as we all do, we start to think about what will we do after we graduate high school.
Mhm. Yeah.
And as any young teen boy, girl, whatever, we always think, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to. We all have these different ideas of what we want to do. And I remember this one guy, the one leader in the church that I was helping out with at the youth group, and I was part of. And he said to me, "Dorsey, I see you standing on stage, sharing your story, sharing your testimony." And at that point, at that time, I was like, "Okay, that's nice. Thank you very much for that encouragement." Because I don't know if you can hear it now. I mean, you can probably hear it a little bit, but back then, my mid teens, early teens, I really had a bad, speech impediment.
Mhm.
And my speech is not perfect now, I get that. And, so when he said, I see you traveling around, sharing your story, I was like, okay, that's nice. Maybe we'll see. And then, I had to have this one meeting before I graduated high school and to talk about what we would do after I graduated.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom was in this meeting, and my high school history teacher was in this meeting, and he was asked, do you think that Dorsey will be able to make it in college? And he said, no, I don't think that Dorsey will be able to make it in college. I don't think he has the ability to make it in college. And then they asked me, and I said, yeah, I think I can make it. Had no idea what I was getting myself into.
Yeah.
And then they asked my mom. My mom said, if he thinks he can make it, he will. And I entered Queensborough Community College in August of 1996. It took me a little while longer than most people take community college, and after that I graduated with a associate in arts degree from community college, and then I went on to Barber College, and as I said earlier, I lost my mom at the age of 25,
Mm.
and in the middle of my college career, and I came home, went to the funeral. Even in that same semester, I went back actually to finish my classes.
Yeah.
And I knew that my mom wouldn't have wanted me to quit. I knew that my mom wouldn't have wanted me to give up.
Yeah.
And so I kept on going. And on 5 years later, after I, did a 4 year stint of community college, 5 years later, I was able to graduate with actually, I graduated with two more degrees. I graduated with another associate's degree because I had somebody at the college tell me, why don't you get your associate's degree? That way you have something to fall back on in case you don't make it. Because even in Bible college, I was struggling. I was
Yeah.
struggling with the classes. I was struggling with, text and learning the biblical languages, even in the minimal basic that I had to take. I had to take it 3
Yeah.
different times, and but I was able to graduate on May 5th, 2005, with a bachelor's of arts degree in youth ministry.
Oh my God, that's amazing. That's amazing. I love your push through. I love your perseverance. I love it. If you believe you can, he can. I like mom. Come on,
And
mom. Yes, mom. Oh, I love it. I love the encouragement from your mother. I love just, I can kind of relate. You said guy told you he sees you speaking in front of everybody and telling your story. You're like, oh, thank you. I did the same thing to my pastor. I did the same thing to my pastor because if you don't see what they see, it's just like, oh, okay, that was nice. I mean,
right.
I did the same thing to my pastor. I was like, oh, thank you. Mm-hmm. Oh my God. So you have a book. You wrote a book.
Right.
And how did you decide to write that book?
I just had a lot of people during my time to travel. I just had a lot of people tell me, "Oh, do you have a book? You should write a book. You should write a book. You should write a book." So I finally started to sit down one day, and it took me several years to write it and to put it together. But I finally, got it published, and in 2020 or 2022, I got it republished as a
Mm.
new updated edition of it, which you can find on Amazon. and it's $9 on Amazon,
Okay.
and you can find it through my website at www.dorseyrossministries.com.
What's the name of your book?
Overcomer.
Overcomer. I like that. Definitely are an overcomer. Definitely. So, how did you come up with the title? Was it just like something that you knew was a running theme in your life, or did someone point it out and say you should do that?
I think it was the run. I think I knew it was like the running theme in my life.
Yeah, yeah, definitely is. Definitely is. You say it took you a couple of years to write.
The first one, it took me several years to write it out.
Why do you think it took a couple of years? Was it trying to get all of your thoughts into, on paper, or what do you think was the main thing?
Yeah, I think it was just getting the thoughts together, but I think it was also the hesitancy of
Mm,
wondering how it was going to come out. Would people be able to receive it? Think of that nature.
yeah. Okay. Okay. So do you feel like God told you to write that book?
Yeah, I think he did.
Okay. Ooh. Well, I heard a lot of people say that there's just this kind of little voice that's like, I gotta get this done. I gotta write this book. I gotta write this book. Did you feel the same way?
No. No, I don't
Oh,
think I don't think it was that way for me.
okay. Okay. And did you have like someone helping you with writing the book?
I did. I had I had an editor, and I had somebody help me quote unquote ghostwrite it a little bit
Yeah.
for me, different things like that. And the first time I did it through a publishing company, and then the second time I did it through Amazon, the
Okay.
Amazon Kindle publishing on Amazon.
Oh, okay. Okay. That's awesome. What are some of your goals for your life that you haven't accomplished yet?
Um, the biggest goal that I would like to accomplish in my life is definitely to get married. I hope to get married someday, one of these days.
Oh,
And then the other one, I guess, is to get back to, doing a little traveling and speaking here and there. Maybe not as much as I was doing it back a few years ago, but maybe doing traveling again and speaking.
okay. Okay. Do you speak at churches, or was it any
I
type
did.
of?
I spoke at mainly at churches.
Okay. Okay. All right. Oh, that is so sweet. You want to get married? Me too. I want to get married too. I want to get married too. Well, I've been married before, but I want to get married and stay married. So yeah, I want to get married too. Oh, okay. Before I let you go, I do want to ask you, what do you think is your purpose?
I think my purpose is to encourage people,
Mm,
to inspire people, to allow them to see me and to see what I have done in my own, through God, see what I have done in my own life, and say is if Dorsey can do that, and Dorsey has, God has given Dorsey the strength to do that, then I can do it as well. Because I
yeah.
think a lot of people, who are, don't have I mean, I heard the saying, we all have some type of disability. Whether that's true or not, that's not for me to say. Um, but I think when people are have a normal body and have a normal healthy lifestyle, I think they give up on their goal and give up on their, their ideas and their dreams too eagerly.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that you said that. Yeah. I think most of the time when people do give up on their dreams and their goals, I think they have to look at what was the root of that. What was that dream rooted in? Was it just because I want to make a lot of money? Was it just because you wanted to get revenge on people? I think they have to look at the root of it, um, because that determines, I think, a lot of times if people will continue going with their goals, with their visions and their dreams. Um, and for me, the dreams that I have, I know they didn't come from me. They came from God, because it's like, why do I have to do that, Lord? Like, it's like, I know they came from God, so I know that I'm not supposed to do it in my own strength. I cannot do it in my own strength. It's not for me to
Right,
do. And I think a lot of times people get lost in that. They think, well, I can't do this, I can't do that. Well, um, the things that I know that I am going to accomplish, I only know that I'm going to accomplish those is because God showed them to me. And when He showed them to me, I knew it was something that I was not going to be able to do. So I cannot rely on myself to do those things. He has to do them. He has to push something through me. He has to provide the resources. There has to be something else that's happening here besides just me. Because I know if it was just me, I would never be on this podcast, because I don't want to
right.
be in front of the camera. I don't want to be, I think my voice sounds crazy. So I would never be on a microphone talking to people. Like, if I listen to myself back, I'm like, I got to say that again. So I know it could not be me. And I think a lot of people lose sight of that. What are your dreams rooted in? Are they rooted in God? Where did they come from? Did you wake up one day and say, let me start a car dealership? Why? Was it because there are a lot of people who are being taken advantage of in that industry and you wanted to be the person that have integrity? Then let's push forward in that. But if not, if it's like, oh, I just want to get the money, sometimes your dreams fail because of your intentions and your root. So I love that you said that. I really do. I love it. I love it. I want to thank you for coming on. Can you tell the people where they can get in touch with you and connect with you?
Yeah. Again, you can all connect. You can all connect with me on the www.dorseyrossministries.com, and you can also find me on all. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. You can find me on those two social media platforms as well.
Yay. Oh my God. Thank you so much, Mr. Dorsey Ross, for coming in and sharing your story. Thank you for your time and your talent. You are truly an overcomer. And I wish you all the best. God bless you.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you so much for hanging out with us today on the Who God Says podcast with your host and Kingdom Ambassador, Tyshaundra. Go to whogodsays.com to join the mailing list for episode premieres, upcoming guests, and more. Send in your questions to be a part of the show at whogodsays@gmail.com. And don't forget, join the Kingdom Fanatic community. Until next time, be blessed and also be a blessing.